The night of June 14, 2022, began like any other humid evening in Singapore's Marina Bay. The skyline shimmered with glass and gold, the reflection of a city that never sleeps, built on money, secrecy, and immaculate silence. At 10:43 p.m., a silver taxi pulled up outside the Helix Residences, one of the city's most secure waterfront towers. From the back seat stepped Clara Reyes, 29 years old, a financial analyst at Aurelius Capital, one of Asia's most discreet private investment firms. She was alone, calm, holding a small silver suitcase and a phone pressed to her ear. The lobby cameras caught her entering. Her face looks tired, but focused, the kind of exhaustion that isn't physical, but mental. She swipes her access card, waits for the elevator, and glances briefly over her shoulder, as if she senses something. At 10:47 p.m., she enters the elevator, presses for the 32nd floor, and disappears from view. That was the last verified sighting of Clara Reyes. No one reported anything unusual that night. No screams, no sounds of a struggle, no broken locks or alarms. Only the faint hum of city traffic, and the soft hiss of the elevator doors closing. At 1:17 a.m., a neighbor 2 floors above her unit reported hearing what she described as a single metallic clang. Not loud, just sharp, and brief. It was dismissed as construction noise. By morning, Clara missed her 9 a.m. executive meeting, something she never did. Her assistant called her 3 times, straight to voicemail. By noon, her company reached out to her landlord, who said her apartment lights were off, blinds drawn. That afternoon, the building manager reviewed the security footage, and something was wrong. Between 1 o'clock and 3 a.m., the cameras on the 32nd floor and both elevator feeds went blank. Not static, not power loss, just missing. Like someone had deleted a piece of time. The system logs showed an unauthorized access to the building's internal CCTV network at 2:04 a.m. The IP address traced back to an offshore server located in the Cayman Islands. Whoever did it wasn't an amateur. When police arrived later that evening, they found no signs of a break-in, no fingerprints, no forced entry. Her passport was gone, her personal laptop missing, but her clothes, jewelry, and luggage were untouched. Her toothbrush was still wet, her dinner, half-eaten noodles, still on the counter. Whatever happened to Clara, it was fast, silent, controlled. Within 48 hours, the case took a strange turn. Her corporate email was deactivated, her employee ID removed from Aurelius Capital's internal registry. When her mother in Manila called the HR department, she was told Clara had resigned effective immediately. But there was one problem. Clara's resignation letter was time-stamped 2 hours after the security cameras went offline. By the end of that week, her condo lease was terminated, and her digital footprint began to vanish. Social media wiped, phone number disconnected. Even her old university records started returning error pages. In a city known for efficiency and order, the disappearance of a high-level financial analyst should have been headline news. But no outlet covered it. No reporters. No statements. Just silence. And in that silence, a single question began to echo through the few who still cared to ask. How does someone disappear completely, in the most surveilled city in the world? Before her name vanished from every record, Clara Reyes was something of a quiet prodigy. Born in Manila, raised by a schoolteacher mother, she won a scholarship to the London School of Economics, a place where she learned not just numbers, but power. After graduation, she was handpicked by a recruitment firm that specialized in discreet placements for elite banking institutions. That's how she ended up at Aurelius Capital, a firm so secretive, even its employees weren't allowed to discuss client portfolios outside the office. Clara worked in forensic risk assessment, analyzing data on offshore accounts, shell companies, and cross-border fund movements. She wasn't high-ranking, but she had access, the kind of access that could expose where billions were hidden. It was during a company event in 2019 that she first met Adrian Tan, a Singaporean billionaire with deep political ties and a reputation for building invisible empires. He was older, charming, and known for his control. Their first meeting was almost cinematic, a rain-soaked evening, a private dinner for Aurelius clients at the Fullerton Bay Hotel. Adrian had arrived late, and Clara, the junior analyst, had been seated beside him by chance. He asked her questions no one else did. Do you trust the people you work for? What would you do if you found something you weren't supposed to see? To most, they were harmless icebreakers. But to Clara, they lingered, unsettling and precise. Over the next few months, they started exchanging emails, then encrypted messages, then private meetings. By 2020, what began as mentorship had turned into something far more dangerous. Adrian wasn't just another client. He was the primary investor behind multiple accounts Clara managed, including some flagged for potential money laundering. Through subtle manipulation, he used her expertise to clean the transactions, disguising illegal transfers as legitimate offshore loans. Clara didn't realize the scale until it was too late. When she confronted him, he didn't deny it. Instead, he smiled. "You've already seen too much, Clara. You might as well be part of it now." What started as affection had turned into control. Adrian began isolating her, asking her to quit her friendships, use only his private communication channels, even move into an apartment for her safety. In messages recovered later by investigators, Clara wrote to a friend, "He says he can protect me from them, but I don't know who they are anymore." By late 2021, she began keeping a secret folder, encrypted files documenting account transfers, emails, and hidden connections between Aurelius Capital and several high-profile political figures. It was her insurance policy, her quiet rebellion. Those who knew Clara in her final months said she had become paranoid. She spoke less, worked longer hours, and often looked over her shoulder when talking. Still, she stayed with Adrian, maybe out of fear, maybe out of guilt. Because deep down, she knew the truth. Once you enter a world like that, there's no way out clean. And by the spring of 2022, Clara wasn't just entangled in an affair. She was part of an empire built on lies, secrets, and people who disappear when they stop being useful. By early 2022, Clara Reyes was living a double life. On paper, she was a rising analyst at Aurelius Capital. In private, she was a woman being watched by the man she thought she loved, and by the company she worked for. It began subtly. Her laptop would lag when opening files. Her phone battery drained twice as fast. She once came home to find her apartment lights on, though she swore she'd turned them off that morning. At first, she blamed exhaustion. Then, one morning, she logged into her work computer and found a folder she didn't remember creating, labeled Incident Report. Inside were screenshots of her private messages with Adrian. Each file was timestamped, each conversation meticulously recorded. Someone inside Aurelius knew. When she confronted Adrian, he didn't seem surprised. He told her to stay quiet, to let him handle it. But there was a coldness in his tone now, the warmth of their early days replaced with something clinical, almost rehearsed. She started noticing unmarked cars parked across the street from her flat. A man in a gray suit sitting in the lobby of her building, every day, at the same time. Once, when she tried to take a different route home, she swore one of them followed her. She began documenting everything in a leather notebook and an encrypted drive hidden behind her washing machine. Her entries were short, but haunting. "I think my emails are being copied. Adrian says it's just stress, but I know he's lying. I think they're planning something." Friends noticed the change. Her once bright energy was gone, replaced by jumpiness and silence. She'd look around before speaking, whisper in cafes, avoid eye contact. Then came the breaking point. One evening, Clara received an anonymous USB in the mail, no return address, just a note that read, "You're not the only one he's done this to." The footage on it was low-resolution surveillance, a woman, mid-30s, being escorted out of a building by men in suits. Her face was blurred, but the date in the corner read 2017, the year another employee of Aurelius had quietly resigned and vanished. Clara's fear turned to resolve. She reached out to a journalist she'd met years earlier at a financial ethics seminar, Mara Kingston, an investigative reporter with a reputation for going after untouchable institutions. Their first meeting took place in a dim cafe near Kensington. Clara brought only a small flash drive. She told Mara she had evidence, real evidence, of money laundering, corruption, and blackmail connecting billionaires to political families across 3 continents. She said she wanted to go public, but carefully. Safely. In the last email she ever sent to Mara, dated May 11, 2022, Clara wrote, "If anything happens to me, they know why." After that, her calls went unanswered, her messages unread, and just 3 days later, she stopped showing up to work. Her apartment, locked from the inside, her phone, wiped, her hard drives, missing, and the flash drive she gave to Mara, destroyed in a mysterious fire at the journalist's flat the following week. By then, it was no longer paranoia. It was a countdown. When Clara Reyes vanished, it didn't make headlines. There was no breaking news, no missing person alert, no frantic appeal from authorities. Just silence. The last confirmed footage of her was from May 14, 2022, at 9:40 p.m. She was seen entering her apartment building, black trench coat, hair tied back, carrying a small tote bag. She smiled briefly at the concierge, tapped her keycard, and stepped into the elevator. She was never seen again. The next morning, Clara missed her 8 a.m. team briefing, something she had never done in 5 years. Her manager called her phone straight to voicemail. By afternoon, her work email returned with an automated message. This account has been deactivated. When her close friend, Lena Patel, visited her apartment 2 days later, she was told the unit had already been vacated. The building's management claimed it had been reassigned to a new tenant. Inside, everything was gone: furniture, clothes, even her toothbrush. The place looked as though no one had ever lived there. But the real horror was what they found missing: her encrypted laptop, her passport, and that leather notebook she had been writing in for months. Lena immediately went to the police. The officers took her statement, nodded politely, and promised to look into it. A week later, when she followed up, the report number she had been given didn't exist. It was never logged. That's when things began to unravel, deliberately. Clara's bank accounts froze overnight. Her LinkedIn profile vanished, her digital ID erased. Even her airline loyalty number was terminated due to fraudulent activity. Every thread of her life was being clipped one by one. And then came the most chilling discovery. A source from inside Aurelius Capital, someone who wished to remain anonymous, leaked a copy of the building's security log from the night Clara disappeared. Between 2:13 a.m. and 3:57 a.m., all camera feeds on her floor went offline. Not just in her building, but across the entire street block. An internal IT report later revealed that the footage wasn't lost. It had been remotely deleted. The deletion request came from a foreign IP address associated with one of Aurelius' offshore data centers, a facility owned by a subsidiary registered in Cayman. Coincidence? No. Lena pushed harder. She contacted journalists, private investigators, even embassies. Within days, she began receiving anonymous calls. One simply said, "Stop asking questions." Another, "She's gone. Let it stay that way." 3 weeks later, Lena's car was found vandalized. No theft, no robbery, just a message scratched into the door: "Don't end up like her." Meanwhile, a Freedom of Information request submitted by a British journalist revealed something even darker. 3 days after Clara's disappearance, a private jet registered under a shell company tied to Aurelius Holdings departed from Farnborough Airport to a remote island in the Seychelles, the same route that appeared on a leaked flight log from the year before. When another whistleblower mysteriously vanished, that jet had no listed passengers, no customs clearance, no trace in official records. Someone had buried her, not with dirt, but with bureaucracy, data manipulation, and fear. By the time her family in Madrid tried to open an international investigation, they were met with legal threats and sealed documents. Interpol declined to intervene. British authorities cited insufficient evidence. Every attempt to find Clara was absorbed into a machine of silence, the corporate maze designed to erase. The world had moved on, but for those who knew her, it was clear. Clara didn't just vanish. She was erased, deliberately, professionally, completely. Months passed. Then a year. No body. No answers. No justice. The case of Clara Reyes became another unsolved line in an endless database, marked inactive, then closed. But for her family, silence was never closure. Her mother, Isabel, still calls Clara's phone every Sunday, the same time they used to talk. It still rings once, then cuts off. Her father stopped giving interviews after the third anonymous warning letter. And Lena, her best friend, left London altogether, saying, "Everywhere I go, I feel like someone's watching me." Investigators who tried to reopen the file found layers of obstruction. The police officer who handled the original report was reassigned. The journalist who published the leaked security logs suddenly retracted the story, citing editorial error. And when one independent blogger claimed to have found Clara's encrypted files on the dark web, their account disappeared within 24 hours. It was as if every trace of her, and every trace of the truth, was being actively hunted down and buried again. But the story didn't die. It spread quietly on forums, podcasts, encrypted chats. Whistleblowers whispered her name like a warning. Some called her naive, others brave. But everyone agreed. Clara had seen something she was never meant to see. There are theories, of course, that she was taken offshore, forced into silence, that she's living under another name, somewhere far from the reach of those who erased her, or that she's gone for good, her truth buried with her. But what's certain is this: the power that silenced her still exists, the money still moves, the same names still sign the same deals, untouchable, invisible, unstoppable. And maybe that's the real horror of Clara's story. Not that one woman vanished, but that the world let her. In the age of endless information, someone made her disappear, and got away with it. Somewhere, on some encrypted server, her face still lives, frozen in one final frame, stepping into an elevator, before everything went dark. And that's the part no one can explain. How a life so full, so connected, could be deleted like it never existed. Maybe it's not about who took her, but about who could, and still can. Because silence isn't peace, it's protection, for the powerful. If this story left you questioning what really happens behind the world's closed doors, you're not alone. Comment your thoughts below. What do you think happened to Clara Reyes? Was it a cover-up, or a warning? Subscribe to Netflix Crime Story for more real-world investigations that the headlines buried, because some stories refuse to stay silent. And somewhere out there, someone is still watching.